I've just returned from a very sweaty weekend in the Netherlands. No, it's not what you think. It's not what you think. Welcome to the Just Play podcast. It's me, your host, JP, and we're here with a Just Play with Others bonus episode where I'm actually going to talk to you about a gaming retreat I just literally have to come back from, literally yesterday. And I wanted to kind of create this episode on the fly and just kind of tell you my experiences and what happened and what it was. So really, well, what is this gaming retreat? Well, this gaming retreat is called Cardboard and Polders, and it is Dávid Turczi's main kind of gaming retreat. So for those that don't know, Dávid Turczi is a renowned designer, has done many games, done many solo modes for games. I'm sure you've heard of him, so I don't know why I'm even explaining his name, to be honest, but there we go. And yeah, he holds an annual invite-only retreat for his kind of friends, family, developers, playtesters, and other kind of members and content creators that somehow kind of basically go across and say hi and chill out for the weekend. And I've been privileged to attend, and this is my second year. So last year was my first. I managed to kind of go over and basically hang out with Dávid and his team, and it was a blast. And this year was no exception. Honestly, guys, it was fantastic. And I'm not here to kind of just say, look at me, I've been to this very exclusive retreat, but I've actually played a lot of games, and I thought, well, actually, it's probably going to take me a while to kind of talk about some of these games. And I thought, well, let's just bring these to life. Let's just do this nice episode and explain what it was, what it's all about. So who else was there at this retreat? Well, Dávid was obviously there, and his family, and his, as I said, his playtest team, developers, playtesters, and some other kind of game designers as well. His brother Adam Turczi was there, also fellow designer of the Star Trek Captain's Chair series from Box 2 or Wave 2. And so always great to catch up with Adam. I met Adam last year and we had a blast playing loads of games. And I'd really good to kind of get good friends with Adam as well as Dávid as well. So if you're listening, Adam, always brilliant to hang out with you. So other content creators that were there, we had Paul Grogan from Gaming Rules, and Paul was my travel companion and also roommate. So yeah, no kiss and tell stories here, I'm afraid. But yeah, so Paul had the joy of spending pretty much 13 hours with me in a car, trying to keep me sane as I drove to the Netherlands from the southwest of the UK. And very much appreciated. Thank you, Paul. Mark Dainty from Not Bored Gaming. Always great to see Mark. I love Mark's sense of humour and banter that he gives at the table. And this year was no exception. No exception at all. So that was always good fun. And we had Asaf from Easy Board Games. And I've never met Asaf properly before. And what a pleasure. Really great to sit down and chat with Asaf and get some games with him as well. And that was fantastic. So really lovely to see all those different kind of people at the event and just really hang out in a real chilled environment. So we kind of stayed at this kind of large house, really. It's on a kind of Center Park style complex where you've got like high ropes and there's swimming pools and there's a lake and to kind of swim in and all sorts of different things you can do activity wise. And of course we didn't do any of that, and we pretty much played board games all weekend, which was pretty awesome. So I have to talk about the weather. The weather was absolutely crazy. I mean, right now I'm back in the UK and it's been literally 30 odd degrees, 35 degrees. So currently I am sat in my office. The door is wide open. You may be able to hear the wildlife that is kind of out there. And yeah, I'm literally in a hot box right now. So if you start to see beads of sweat come on, basically on my forehead, it's going to happen. It's going to happen, guys. So the weather was the same. It was pretty much very much in the low 30s all weekend. It's just not really board gaming weather. I always worry about the board games just kind of curling up in the heat and all the dual layered player boards just buckling under the pressure of the heat. But we managed to get through. But I think my only saving grace was getting to probably about 1 o'clock in the afternoon and thinking, I'm just so hot, I've just finished playing this game, and I had to kind of take a walk into the lake like it was some sort of legendary quest that I went off to every day, just basically sitting down in this very cool lake trying to freshen up and just get sorted. But you know what? we soldiered through. It was great to be away, and it's great to kind of do those things as well. So let's talk about the drive over there. So yeah, I drove pretty much all the way, as I mentioned, with Paul, and the drive was pretty good. It's long. It's always going to be a long drive, but it was pretty good. There was no major setbacks or hiccups. I mean, the Channel Tunnel was a little busy going out, and also trying to get around Antwerp is always a challenge. It's always a challenge. Very busy around there, and I think, if I'm stealing a reference from probably the previous Essen episode that I did with the Whose Turn Is It Anyway podcast, where I think it was Davey who mentioned that we got Antwerped. Basically, we got Antwerped again. It was just a thing that we had to do. So yeah, but we got there. We arrived on the Friday and basically unpacked, found our room, got sorted, got settled. Food was cooked, which we had kind of not everyone, but selected people were kind of being the chefs of the weekend, had different meal plans each night, and everyone was doing their own chores. So everyone's kind of pitching in, which is nice. Everyone's kind of doing their thing to help with the weekend. So yeah, that was great. And that food, we were ready for that food that was there when we came. So basically, I want to talk a little bit about the games. That's what you want to hear, right? You want to hear about what board games did I play? What secrets can I unveil to you that obviously I'm seeing prototypes of new releases that are maybe coming out this year, or might even be next year, or might not even see the light of day. Who knows? And the answer to that, I cannot reveal anything. Absolutely nothing. So this kind of makes this a bit awkward. Okay, so you're telling me you've gone to a board gaming weekend where you get to see and access all this new stuff, and you can't tell us about it, JP. And no, I can't. I'm sorry. I'm not allowed. NDA and all of that lovely stuff. It's just what it is. Okay, let's talk about the games I can talk about. Let's talk about the games I played over the weekend and bring that to life. And what I might do is I'm going to probably throw some kind of images and photos that I took from the weekend throughout my monologuing of many games. You can kind of get to see what that event was all about and how it looked and how it worked and all that kind of stuff. So yes, check out those as I kind of talk through it. So Friday, Andromedas Edge. Right, Andromeda's Edge is a game by Cardboard Alchemy and designed by Luke and Maximus Laurie, the father-son design team, and the spiritual sequel to The Dwellings of Eldervale. And yeah, basically Andromeda's Edge is a worker placement game with lots of combo-tastic resource management, and yeah, lots of kind of knobbery as well, because it's spaceships and basically players battling each other to do whatever they need to do to kind of get moving. So yeah, for those that haven't really heard of the game, kind of how it works is you have a series of ships, starting with these transports, which these kind of cool, like starfish looking transport things, and they start in your launch bay. And on your turn, you will do a first launch to Hexagon on the main map, which are many different planets or alliance bases. The planets are standard planets that have different colors that represent different kind of terrain or planetary types in the game. And you have alliance bases, which are your main worker placement action spots. So your ships are your workers. So you're sending your ships or launching your ships out to the map. Now, the difference is on your first launch, you can go anywhere unless another player is in that sector. So you can pretty much go, which is all well and good. You do the thing, do your action, happy days. When you want to do your next launch, this is where the puzzle starts to come in, because you can only launch from the range of your previously played or launched ships. And at the start, that's usually one hex. So suddenly you're now limited to where you can put your ships, but you can now start putting them in other players' sectors. And what that does, that starts a bit of a tussle and a bit of a fight, which is always good fun in this game. So yeah, you really got this kind of snail kind of trail of different workers trying to get what you want, whether you're picking up moons for resources or slotting them in for different areas, or whether you're trying to get specific actions to buy these other modules, which I'll talk about in a second, to help build your engine up as you play the game. But typically, if you're ending your turn with other opponents in the sector, and that can be the neutral raiders that do appear on the board, and typically they'll start in the nebula area, which is this top row of hexagons at the top of the board, you'll have a fight. And the combat system in this is just it's really good. It's really simple. It's essentially you'll work out how many dice you're going to roll. You'll go through some combat steps of whether you're playing diplomacy, which you'll have these tactic cards that will do all sorts of cool and like silly stuff, but all in the best way that kind of creates this tension and atmosphere in the game. And you'll be chucking those dice, and really it's whoever rolls the highest number. And if you draw, you then go to the next highest number, and then the next highest number, until ultimately there'll be one person who has done whatever, beaten the other player. Now, there is a rare chance that you can absolutely draw, but that's never happened in any game that I've played. So yeah, you kind of do that, and if you lose, you get some sort of reward for losing, which is always nice, and you can configure that in the game, which is always good. I think I did a 2VP gain every time I lost a battle, so I was constantly throwing ships in there. But yeah, if you win, you go up this supremacy track, and there you go. You got so many tracks in the games. You got 5 main tracks of different types that do different things. One science, one industry that helps you build new ship types, which are like your attack force, your kind of science vessel, and your heavy cruiser. And yeah, that's quite cool. And you got your yellow track, that's your commerce, that's going to help you get credits and scoring points for your resources at the end of the game. And your blue civilization track is going to help with your hand limit and end game scoring. So there are different tracks that you're going to push yourself up, which is always fun to go up tracks because you get things and bonuses and stuff like that. So yeah, the thing that kind of makes the game as well is that when you've done and all your ships are launched, you'll do a return to station action. And this is where all the modules that you've been buying throughout the game start to get activated. So you'd be putting a ship on a row, you'd be activating the row, and depending on how many modules you might want to activate, you need energy to activate more and more, and you get to do more and more kind of combo-tastic stuff. So actually the action that's normally I have to recall my workers action, it's actually one of the most exciting actions in the game because you just get a load of stuff. It's like going shopping, and all the endorphins are kicking off there. So yeah, Andromeda's Edge was great. I did absolutely crap on my game. Not gonna lie, and this is a running theme of the weekend. I think mainly because I'm playing against designers and play testers of games that are there to break games, and generally, yeah, it's just the thing you've got to like live up to. You're playing against some real clever people that know how to play these games and how to grok these games to the nth degree. But we had a blast, we had a great time, and yeah. That was a really good opener for the retreat. So we played that, went to bed. So Saturday, wake up. Of course, we want to play a game. And I had someone from the team requested that I bring Slay the Spire. So, of course, happy to play Slay the Spire. It's one of my favourite games to play. And we literally spent the morning outside just near where the lake is kind of situated, which I was frequenting throughout the weekend, and just basically pitched up camp on a big outdoor table, and basically got a couple of parasols to shaders, and I think that was the best that we could kind of make of the situation to cool off. So Slay the Spire got set up. We had a 3-player game, of which I played as the Silent. We had basically Jace, who was also with us, playing as the Watcher, which is great because it's a character that doesn't get played that much, and I wanted to unlock more content for that character. And then we had one of the other team and friends of David playing the Defect. There we go. Get there eventually. So yeah, so getting the Defect, and basically we ran acts 1, 2, and 3. We went through the entire game. Now, many of you have probably heard of Slay the Spire, the video game, which is a video game of a board game. So now there's the actual board game of the video game, which is a board game. So that's quite cool. And I'll tell you what I was skeptical with Slay the Spire when it got announced. I was just thinking, I'm not sure this is going to work as well, and how is it going to translate into the real kind of physical media of board gaming. But they've knocked this game out of the park. They have absolutely made this work, and it's just fantastic to hold those cards that you've seen on the screen in your hand, and to be able to play cooperatively, which is now a standard feature in Slay the Spire 2, right? It's just such a great game. It's such a good game. And if you haven't heard of it, I'll just buy it on Steam. Just go and buy it, or buy it on the App Store and just play it, because it's just fantastic. But really, if you've never heard of Slay the Spire and you're thinking, okay, JP, well, what is it? Well, Slay the Spire is a game where you start at the bottom. It's a roguelike style game where you're doing runs against the game in order to get to the boss, defeat the boss, and you win, right? Fairly straightforward. And on your journey, you're making decisions whether to go left or right up this branching path of, do I fight monsters in an encounter? Do I take a random event? Do I go shopping? Do I rest? Do I upgrade my cards, etc.? Every decision is meaningful in this game in the way that you kind of progress. And the kind of trick is that if you're having a fight, you're always going to get a card as a reward, right? So you get this massive thick deck of cards for your character, and then you typically would draw 3 and pick one. So your standard deck that starts with, let's say, 10 cards is growing and growing and growing with ever opportunity to kind of tailor it to what you want. But also you've got to be careful because there's not that many ways of trashing cards out of your deck. You can do it typically when you go shopping and through certain events, but typically your deck is just going to get bigger and bigger till it becomes this thing, which hopefully you've curated in the right place. And I just love the choices. It's like you're constantly getting these new boons and cards, things that will unlock opportunities that you hadn't never seen before. And the way the combat works is slick. It makes sense. You can do many of it simultaneously. You can discuss it with different players, of course, where it makes sense. Like, guys, I'm about to die. I need your help, please. Otherwise, we all lose, which is obviously a lose condition of the game. But as you kind of progress, you're unlocking relics. Now, relics are just these cool powers that you get when you basically defeat elite bosses, and also when you kind of get up to certain areas in the game, especially on the Act 1. And they're just doing cool things like, once per turn do this thing, tap it and get a thing. Or it could be that because you roll a dice every combat round, which determines some of the behaviors of the enemies, you might be getting heals or blocks or dealing damage to different people. And you can get potions that can help you do buffs and all sorts of stuff. And it's just such a fun game. We had a blast, and it really helped. I think Jace, who was playing with us, breaking the game, dealing 120 damage, which is just massive in the game. And I was like, thank God this is a co-op, because you'd rinse us if it wasn't. So, yeah, it was just a really, really good experience. And we went for Acts 1, 2, and 3, and we played all morning, and we beat the game. And this is also on Ascension 1. So the game has an inbuilt kind of mechanism that if you want to make the game harder, you can add this difficulty level in, which will twist the game up slightly. So we were playing on Ascension level 1, which is the easiest of the Ascension modes, which made the elites harder. And now we've unlocked Ascension level 2. And so the next time I play, you can keep going and going and going until you get basically better in the game, and that's just always good fun. So yeah, that was such a blast playing Slay the Spire. The next game I'm going to talk about is Leviathan Wilds. Now, this is a game that I brought to the retreat, and another member brought it as well, and it's just a game that was constantly on tables. It was always being played. Not always my copy, but I think Ricardo's copy was just constantly there. And it was just such a joy to see this game just consistently being played. And I think I'm not trying to rack my brains why. Why is it the case? And obviously, I think it's a great game. But I think it's kind of a game that lasts about an hour. And it's just a nice filler. It's just a nice, meaty kind of filler puzzle that you can get in between kind of maybe larger games that take 3 hours. And I think it was just, basically being a nice palate cleanser. So what is Leviathan Wilds? Well, Leviathan Wilds is a game I knew nothing about until about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And the crowdfunding is currently, at this time of recording, is doing a campaign, which is Mooncrab Games, doing a campaign for the Shattered Peak expansion for it. And it's only really from that I've been going, what is this game? And people comparing it to Shadows of the Colossus, the video game, which is all about you scaling these big beasts and basically taking them down. And this is kind of like a board game adaptation of that, although it's not directly linked to the IP, it's its own thing. And really, you are these climbers with specific powers. that you are climbing these Leviathans who have got these crystals all over their body, and some of these crystals are your standard crystals, and some of them are blighted, which are different colours on the map. And these crystals are kind of enraging these Leviathans and making them pissed off, basically, and they do not like or want you climbing all over their body. So they're consistently trying to like hurt you and deal their nonsense to you in order to basically get rid of you. And it's this kind of game of cooperative game where you're working together to destroy the crystals off the Leviathan. And if you do, great days. You rescue the Leviathan. It kind of comes out of its trance and then realizes, cheers, thanks for the help. Now can you get off me, please, so I can get on with my day. Whereas if you lose, well, you die, you lose. And that can happen in the game. So it's like a boss battler. So the game comes with a book of 17 Leviathans, and you can open up, you can play them in any order you like. There's not really a campaign as such. You can play them obviously 1 to 17, or you can just play whatever the hell you want. And we played, I think throughout the entirety of the weekend, I played this game 3 times. So I've played 3 of those Leviathans already, and I think others were playing the others. And every Leviathan adds its own new rule set, probably apart from the first one, which is like a tutorial, but adding its own kind of rule set into the mix to kind of mix up the puzzle. So as you're climbing up, the whole board is a book. So you open it up to the pages you want. There's a Leviathan. You take the set of cards out that are the kind of Leviathan's behavior cards, give them a shuffle, and you arrange them into a row of 5. And ultimately, you are taking your turns, revealing the threat card, so you kind of get an idea what this thing's going to do. And it comes with these kind of rings that you put onto the board surrounding your space. And basically, if it's going to attack you, it might have an area of effect attack that you're going to have to deal with or get out of the way. But usually you have time. Not always, because when these things get pissed off, they get enraged and things start to get a bit naughty for the climbers. But basically, you're playing these climbers. You'll have a class of climber and you have the character of the climber. And there are 2 separate decks of cards, and you take them both and you shuffle them, and that's your deck. And it's very simple. There's no real deck building as such. You're just throwing 2 things and mixing it together. So when you do that, you're away. You draw your hand of 3 cards, and you're taking one of those cards and slotting it into your player board, and that's your action points for the round. So now you know what you can do. And on your turn, you can climb, which means you can move up the nodes in an orthogonal way, and each node is an action point. You can jump by spending 3 action points to literally jump to 2 nodes away, and that can be over open space. So again, you're climbing up. You might be doing a jump to a different area of the beast, maybe onto one of its other legs. And you can do other things like striking crystals, which is like you can spend as many action points to strike them down. And the crystals are dice that you basically use as counters, and you can tick them down and away you go. If you hit a blighted crystal, then you're going to take blight damage. And this is where the kind of the game over conditions can come in, because if your health ever reaches the blight marker on your health track, then you die. So as blight goes up, it means that the health has less to go, and if they ever cross over, then well, you're super dead, which is probably going to happen at some point. You're kind of doing all these different things. You can heal yourself, you can rest, and the way the grip system works is so simple, but the way it works is just so clever and intuitive and thematic. So your grip is your deck. If your deck ever runs out, or your grip ever runs out, guess what happens? Well, you fall. And if you fall, you're going straight down to the bottom. Now, if you're passing through certain nodes that are injury nodes or grip damage nodes or whatever, you will take that as you fall down, and you'll hit the first ledge that is in your column. Now, that might be right to the bottom, or it could be in a safe place that you managed to kind of put yourself in. So you're managing your deck, and there are ways to manipulate that as you go, where you can kind of get more grip, which is basically random cards from your discard shuffled and put under your deck. To keep yourself going for longer, right? And I really like that aspect of like, my grip's running out, I need to find a ledge so I can rest. And when you rest, you take your discard and basically put that under your deck, and you have grip and you can carry on climbing. So the timing of the game is really important. But what I really love about it is you've got your hand of cards, and you can just play them at any time to do skills on your turn or on other people's turn. So if an opponent's revealed the threat card, and their area of effect is going to hit you, well, if it's not your turn, you don't have any agency to deal with that. Well, this game allows you to play a card. So you can basically go, I'm going to play this card. It allows me to move out of the way. And all the skill cards do some really cool stuff, like that kind of thematic to the character. So I was playing a gadgeteer, and it has this big wooden gadget token that I could spend to do some cool stuff, which is going to help me strike. It's going to help me move and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, so there you go. Hopefully that kind of gives you a sense of what the game is. And yeah, it's just fun. I can't explain it any other way. It's just fun. It plays in an hour. Really good for families. If you've got kids that are, around that 10-year-old mark, maybe even a little bit younger, who can get onto board games, I'd pick this up. I think it's just a great kind of experience. And a lot of people have said the same thing who are playing it, which is awesome to see, right? Which is great. We then played, still outside, a trick-taking game called Cat in the Box. This game, I don't even know where to begin to explain Cat in the Box. There's some thematics around it being that it's to do with time travel, or it's to do with you trying to stop a paradox from happening. And it's like any other trick-taking game, except the cards you don't have any suits or colours. They're just number cards and they're all black and white. And you think, well, hang on a minute, how does that work as a trick-taking game? And it took me a few goes to try and figure this out. But you have this board in the middle, which has all of the colours. You've got your various different colours of green, blue, red, and yellow. Red being the trump suit, and they're all arranged in that way. And then you've got your own little mini player board, which means when you're playing a card from your hand, you have to put it on which side, which denotes its colour. So you can say, I've got a 6, but I'm playing it as a yellow 6, or I'm playing it as a green 6. And when you do that, you put your token onto this communal board that shows that everybody that was the green 6. So therefore, the green 6 is done, and no one can play that again. So at the beginning, it feels open because you're bidding for the amount of tricks that you can do. So you think, can I do 1, 2, or 3? But the clever thing in the game was actually if you bid correctly, and the tokens that you put onto this numerical board all kind of arranged in an orthogonal connection, you can actually score more points in the game. So not only are you trying to create this big trail of tokens, but everyone knows you're trying to do that. And they're going to basically screw you, because if you ever get to a position where you're playing a card and you can't play it for any number or colour, because you're out of that colour or they're all taken, then you cause a paradox and you're going to score negative. So there's this real kind of silliness with the game, where you just can't help but play. And yeah, it was fun. I'd play it again. Trick-taking games for me, they can be hit and miss. They're not my favourite style of game, but I like the mechanic of trick-taking and how it works and when it's implemented into game systems. But yeah, this one was just a little bit unique and a little bit different to what I've played before. And it does require some kind of brain decision space that might not be my wheelhouse. But it was good fun to play a lighter game, especially after the Slay the Spire and Leviathan Wilds. So then we get to Saturday evening. So Saturday evening, we had booked a grand epic adventure of the Defense of Procyon III. So this is a game designed by Dávid Turczi. So again, his weekend, he had his copy. It was all painted, probably showing you pictures of those painted miniatures now. And we set this up. So it was me, Adam Turczi, we had Mark Dainty and Asaf from Easy Board Games. And we sat down to play this epic grand game. And I love this game. This game is just something unique and special about this game. The more I play it, the more it kind of lives rent-free in my brain. And yeah, and it was just a great privilege to kind of sit and play. And Adam, being David's brother, had not even played this game before, so he was keen to try it out. So me and Adam were on the alien team. Mark and Asaf were on the human team. So Adam was playing the Meld, which is the spaceship faction. So basically, dealing with all that nonsense in space. I was playing as the principal, which is the alien ground forces. And Mark was the expedition playing the human ground forces. And Asaf was the Armada, which is a human space. So maybe I'll explain this very shortly. So the game is like a asymmetric, unified war game that's fought over different fronts. You've got the space and you've got the ground, and it's all happening simultaneously. You're kind of helping each other on your team, and the way the space board looks, you've got the planet of Procyon III, and you've got all of the space armadas all waiting, waiting for the big grand battles, and you've got like the Western Hemisphere and the Eastern Hemisphere of that planet, which is directly interacts with the ground board, which is the literally what's happening specifically on the ground, with all the troops having basically firefights and all sorts of stuff. And on the ground, you've got on the alien side the Empress, who's the queen. The aliens are all like a hive mind that they're all kind of being controlled by the Empress, and all of the drones that are kind of on the board, and Centurions, which are like your beefy units, all trying to basically cause mayhem for the humans in order to retrieve this artifact. Because the story is that the humans have dug up this artifact on the planet, and they're basically pissed off. These aliens are saying, no way, leave that alone. There's a bigger threat in the universe if you start meddling with that. And because neither faction or species can understand each other, it's this massive war and conflict. And every faction, even on the same team, plays differently. They've got different mechanisms that's been brought in. If you're playing as the Meld, you're playing like a Gloomhaven with dice kind of system. If you're playing the Principal, you're playing this card play system where multi-use cards that allow you to move units around based on the territories on the card, but also their skills do some really cool effects. But you also have this board that you can play cards face down on to basically enact directives. And the way the combat works to the Principal is that you have a bag, and it's like a bag building kind of ratio of black and white cubes, and you're just hoping to pull out the black cubes to do all the damage, because all the white cubes are basically the discontent of your forces that is not listening to what you want them to do. That happened a lot at the amusement of the other players. But the expedition player kind of has these 4 core heroes that specialize in different things in the game, whether that's healing, dealing damage, etc., recon, etc. And then they're playing cards to basically activate a hero and basically generating a rally points to move units and do firefights on the map as well. So that's always good fun. And in our game, me and Mark were head to head. We were the ground forces, and Mark was pretty much decimating my eastern front of forces to the point where my Empress was, pretty much at risk, and they get a lot of VPs for killing her. But on the western front, I was basically causing Mark a bit of trouble and tearing down his pylons and his defenses and all sorts of things. All the while Adam was from space bombarding the planet, trying to help me out and doing all these things, and also landing ships to give me extra combat strength and things like that. But on the other side, Adam and Asaf would basically sorting out the space conflict. And the way the Meld work, again, you pick a dice, you're doing pips for one thing and diamonds for another thing, and activating specific units and moving them around, of which they have many. And the Armada player kind of has this, you curate your own combat deck, which has hits on there. Again, these are multi-use cards as well. And also any cards that are kind of on top of your discard pile act as a technology that you're being used throughout the game as well. So there's so much decision spaces that you're kind of going through for each faction. I mean, I've played this 3 times now, and this basically I've played a different faction each time because I'm trying to get around all of the factions that can help teach this game. And the biggest downside to this game is that it's a highly asymmetric game. It's much like Root in the fact that you're having to learn a brand new faction. The way it interacts with the game is completely different to everyone else. So if you've got a faction that someone's coming along to play and you've not played it, it's really hard to help them out, because the game comes with 4 separate rule books, one for each of the factions. And really one of the best ways is, here, read this rule book. And that's always a high barrier to entry for any game. And there are some actually good videos online that kind of break it down, which I've watched. But when I'm teaching games, it's always a bit difficult because I want to be the one that helps the players out, right? Even if they're on my team or not, I want to be able to help them out. And it's a bit difficult to do that. So it takes a lot of investment of your time. But oh boy, like when you get there, when you're kind of grokking this game, I can see this being exceptional, absolutely exceptional. And most of us around the table, I think, enjoyed it. I think the first play is always rough. The downtime is always long, and it takes a long time to get around because everyone's like, how does this work again? How does that work? But once you get past that, there's a gem of a game here. And I think currently, it's out of print. It's probably quite difficult to get a hold of. I'm really hoping that this gets picked back up because there's something special. There really is. There's not many games like this. It will be niche. But we had a blast, and I think Adam's looking to pop round maybe later in the year for one weekend. We're going to get some games of it then and hopefully get refreshed. So that's cool. So that's good fun. So that's pretty much the Saturday. I think after all of that games, I was pretty tired and ready to hit the sack. So yeah, then we got into Sunday. So the first game I played was some Star Trek Captain's Chair decks, but I can't talk about them. But I did play 2 games of Star Trek Captain's Chair, playing some potential content from future waves. And all I'm going to say was, mwah, brilliant. Love that game. I won't talk about Captain's Chair too much other than you should check it out, even if you're not a Trekkie. If you like the Imperium system, please check Star Trek Captain's Chair out. It's just such a fantastic game. What an experience to play it. And yeah, what a privilege to play with the designers as well. I absolutely love that game. But I'll say no more about that. So what did I play? I played Recall with Frank and a couple of other people that were there at the retreat. Frank did a great job at kind of teaching the game to other people. I played before. Recall kind of sits in, I think it's in the same designers as Revive. And basically, it's a similar-ish game, even though it's not the same. It feels like the DNA of Revive is in there, but it's basically a very different game. Very, very kind of Euro-y in the way that it works. You basically are exploring this land. You're trying to unearth these artifacts and knowledge from these 3 species that have been dormant and dead and buried many millennia ago, and you're uncovering basically their technology and their knowledge, and ultimately to utilize for your own gain. So you're exploring these tiles, you're branching out with your workers. You're building these vaults, you're building workshops and monuments that are kind of linked to these particular species. And yeah, basically all in the name of VPs. And Recall's good fun. Personally, I prefer Revive. I don't know why. Maybe I'm in the minority of that, but I think I do prefer Revive to Recall. But I wanted to play it again, and I still have fun with the game. And I think what it is like, let me explain how maybe the game works a bit. So you have these keys, these action keys, and they slot into your playable, which is very cool, by the way. So you take the key, put it into an action, and then you'll do anything on the key, which might be bonuses, you'll get, and also you'll do the action that you've slotted the key in. And that bit's quite a cool part of the game. I feel like maybe you're not getting enough of that kind of endorphin hit of I get a thing, put the key in. Maybe because there's only 13 rounds in the game, and at least 2 of them are going to be recall actions, which is similar to Andromedas Edge of recalling all your kind of keys and pulling them those back as well. But yeah, you're kind of doing these things, and those actions are like move your workers, reveal a new tile, traverse over water, excavate, build stuff, etc., etc. And they're just pretty much a combination of those things. And yeah, and you've got these. Each tile is like a hex grid of many hexagons that are all interconnect into each other. You'll be revealing those, and then depending on the terrain type will depend on what you can build on there and how you interact with them. And you've got these things called relic cubes, which are these big chunky cubes that sit on there. And when you pick one of those up, they'll go into your player board. That's like a set collection thing. You can get gems, which will help you as action economy to spend for a lot of these things. And there are 3 tiers of gems that you'll need to acquire, and you can convert those up and down. I think the fun bit of the game is the species are all like asymmetric powers. And you've also got the gadgets, and these gadgets are these little tiles that allow you to activate with ability stones that allow you to do some cool stuff. And it might be like you can get to build for free, or you get to do a free movement, or you can do something else. And you start with one in the game. And there are 3 others on the free species tracks, which are white, grey and black. And basically, the more you interact with those colour components, whether you're digging up those colour ability stones or you're finding the knowledge of that particular colour, you're going up the track. And when you get to a certain point, you're going to get a bonus if you're first, but you get access to a gadget. You'll find a gadget, and then you add that to your playboard, and now your options are increased. And then you get a bit further, you reveal the species, and now you have access to its ability, which is great. So now you've got two kind of core abilities that you can do, and you keep doing this until you kind of build this custom species. Really, like your faction just becomes a meld of different things, and yeah, it's quite cool, that bit, I must admit. But I think for Revive, I just prefer to have my faction, which is a bit more meaty, that does this thing. The way the board is completely asymmetric to others, I just find that system just more interesting for me. But I think a lot of people are enjoying Recall, probably more so than Revive, but hey ho. The other game that I played on Sunday was World Order by Hegemonic Project Games, which is their new kind of game in that series. So a lot of people are going to compare World Order to Hegemony because it's the same publisher, but it is nothing like that. And Paul did a great teach. Like, Paul was pretty much trying to practice his teaching patter down, because he's got a demo this at the UK Games Expo. And so I decided to jump on his second game and just get a full game experience, because I've only really played like 60% of a game round Mr. Mark Monk from Ninja Geek Games when he did a practice game for his demo at GridCon. And and I've demoed it at UK Games Expo previously as well. So I thought, let's get a full game. Let's see what this thing's all about. So what is World Order? World Order is a game where you play as a superpower. So you can be playing as America. I'm not going to finish that sentence. You can play as Russia, you can play as China, you can play as the EU. And you effectively are influencing the world via different ways, whether it's militarily or whether it's through economic pressure, or whether it's through basically engaging diplomatic relations for different countries. So you've got, I think it's 7 sections of the board, all representing the different continents of the Earth. And each continent will have a deck of country cards that will be like a little mini market and offer that you can kind of get as you go through. Really, it's kind of boiled down to 8 actions. I'm not going to go through them all. And they are themed in different things: diplomacy, military, economic and trade, etc., and some in growth as well. And they're themed around these themes. And you start with a deck based on your country, and I think they're slightly asymmetrical in how they work as well, which is always nice. And you are effectively playing a card, doing the thing. On your turn, next, you play a card, do a thing, and you go round and round, influencing the board by putting cubes out. And there are like 3 other core actions will allow you to put cubes out, whether you're spending diplomacy to engage with particular continent areas, and it becomes like an area majority game in there, which is always interesting actually, because there's 2 sections to the area majority. You've got like a permanent influence, which can never be removed, and then you've got this temporary influence, which gives you more points when you place, but it is at risk of being knocked out, and they kind of slide on a conveyor belt as people put more and more on. So that's quite an interesting thing. So you typically can put influence cubes out by engaging, by building bases in countries that will allow you to. Not all countries like you. I found that out. Some, they're happy to have bases from you, and some are like, no way, like, piss off, you're not allowed to do it. And the other one is investing in countries as well. If you invest in countries, you're spending money, but you're getting small returns from them, but also influence into that region as well. You're doing different things. You can improve your country by getting growth cards. You can basically, get more country cards as well, and improve relations in different ways, so you can get more options, because those are cards you can spend to do different things as well. You can also put a crap load of tanks out, which I learned that's what Russia does, right? Russia was just basically being a military threat to pretty much most of the other players on the board. And if you're putting tanks on the board, you're increasing the threat into those areas, and depending on the area, you'll have like your superpowers icon in certain regions, which is basically saying you're like more present in certain regions. So for China, which is what I was playing, I'm more present in Asia for obvious reasons, whereas the USA more present in the Americas, but there's some overlap as well. So if you've got tanks in there, you're now providing threat to the other player, providing it's their kind of sphere of influence. And if you have less threat than the opponent, then you're losing victory points at the end of every round. And that's quite interesting because this becomes this cold war of just people putting tanks in. And you go, oh, hold on, I'm putting more tanks in. But kind of when you've done all of that, you basically go through a purchase market phase where you can get quite a card. So the 2 cards that you don't spend, so you get 6 cards in hand, you spend 4 of them as actions. The 2 that you don't spend, you get money typically, and or research points, and you can add those research points to buy new cards. So it becomes this deck building game, which is always good fun. I love a bit of deck building in games. And you're now going, do I want to spec into military? Do I want to spec into economic? And you can kind of lean into different ways, reacting to what other players are doing in the game. And yeah, that bit was really, really fun. But the game has its major scorings after 3 and the 6th round, which is when it ends, and that's pretty much when basically all the shenanigans kind of happen. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed World Order. I thought it was a really good game. Paul did a cracking teach, which is no surprise. That's his bread and butter, and it's what he loves doing. And I think everyone had a great game. Now, people were going, well, how does it compare to Hegemony? And I'm like, well, it is a different game, so it's difficult to compare. But if you ask me which one I prefer, which one do I like the best, is Hegemony. I think my main reason for that is I think I prefer the zoomed in aspect of you are a country and you are operating as one of its class systems, as opposed to I'm the big superpower. And it just feels like you're more under the microscope, and the cards you play, you can kind of identify with a lot more for me personally. And I think Hegemony is a heavier game than World Order, which is not necessarily a bad or good thing, but I think that's just something for my taste. I just prefer Hegemony, and I'm actually looking forward to the Shadows of Authority expansion when it comes out, so that should be good. But World Order is definitely a great game. It's definitely good. I'll play it any day, and I think probably the good thing is that it's not super asymmetric as well, like Hegemony is, where you've got to learn a class system, and it's literally different to how the state works, how the working class works. Everybody will be doing the same things, but with different nuances. So I think it's a bit more accessible. No, it's a lot more accessible than Hegemony is in that respect. So yeah, so that's World Order. So that was all good fun. And then we get to the Monday, and I play a lot of repeated games, the Leviathan Wilds and other things, as you do. But the only new game I played on Monday was Clans of Caledonia. And that came as a bit of an opportunity because 3 of us were sat around. It's like, what should we play? And there's a big stack of games on the table. And I think, again, it was Frank that said, well, we could play Clans. And I was like, please, I want to play Clans of Caledonia because it's a game that I've heard of and I've just missed out playing it. It's just, I think at GridCon twice in the past 2 years, I've not had the opportunity to play. I've just missed out. And to get an opportunity to rectify that, I was like, yes, please, let's do it. So we got Clans of Caledonia to the table, and Clans was it gets referenced to like Terra Mystica a lot, and it gets referenced to Gaia Project as well, and I'm not sure if it actually shares the same designer or not. I'll have to check it out, but it's very similar in that you've got this board in the middle, and you arrange it in multiple tiles, so you get a different board layout, which is always good. And on this board, you've got a bunch of hexagons, and there's lakes, there's grasslands, there's mountains, and there's loads of cost icons on each hexagon. That's pretty much the board. There's some ports in the corners which will allow you to do some mega moves if you can kind of get there, but generally the board is the board. And you've got your little player board, just a tiny player board, which has all of your industries on there, whether it's your sheep, your cows, the milk, that it's making, and the cheese industries. You've got wheat, you've got whiskey, and you've got bread. And then you've got a bunch of workers that can be woodcutters and miners that kind of work in the mountains. And all of that's on your board. And much like Terra Mystica or Age of Innovation, you've got 7 actions you can do, the 8th one being its pass. And this game flies around the table. It's like, right, I'm going to expand. I'm going to put the, let's say, a cow on this space. I'll pay the cost of the space and the cost of the industry. Done. Your go. Right, I'm going to upgrade my navigational shipping range. Cool, 4 quid. Done. Next go, well, I'm going to buy resources from the market. And this is where there's a nice little market board of all of the primary and secondary resources in the game, and all these counters on there that you can just buy. And the amount you buy will then push up basically the price of those resources, because they get more scarce. And if you sell, they become devalued. So this thing's fluctuating as the players are interacting with it. And I always love simple market kind of trading boards. I think they're always quite fun in the game. So yeah, you're kind of flipping around doing these actions, and it's just literally zipping right around. Like you're just having lots of turns before you know it, and to the point where you can't do anything. You ran out of money, and you're like, I have to pass. And the whole kind of point of the game is you're acquiring contracts, which is one of the actions. And on that contract, it'll say, I need 2 bread and 1 whiskey. And you go, okay, well, in order to do that, then I'm going to have to start investing in those industries and putting them out on the board. So you're kind of building, at the start of the game, you're having 2 presents on the board, which are 2 of your worker meeples. And typically you'll have them at either end as some sort of fashion. And it does a snake drafting and how that works as well. So once you've done that, you can build off from them in an adjacent way. So at the start, it's very open. You can go anywhere, but I'm telling you, when this game gets going, contention is happening all over. As people cutting you up. And the game we were playing, there's a really, really like awesome port ability in the corner, which says if you have these 4 resources, you get 50 quid. And I'm like, I want a piece of that action, and just got completely cut off. And it's like, nah, sod you. So we had a bit of a laugh about that, but it's just really good. I want this game. I want Clans of Caledonia. It's been tickling my brain ever since I played it, and I'm like, I really want to buy this game now. Frank did have the Industria expansion. We didn't play with the train board, so no choo-choos for us, unfortunately. But we did, I think, threw in some of the modules of extra stuff and extra clans. And I'm not sure if I was playing one from the base game or from the expansion, but I was like the fisherman clan. So my workers weren't woodcutters and miners, they were fishermen, and they could go in their lakes and move around, and that was quite fun. And I really liked how different and asymmetric the different clans were. So yeah, I'm looking forward to playing more of Clans of Caledonia. But yeah, please check it out if it sounds like it's your jam. So that was kind of the main game. Those were the main games I played over the weekend, and I had such a blast. And all I can say really, if you're listening, David and team, and yeah, Nora Lee, who basically coordinated the event, just thank you so much. It's such an honor and a privilege to be invited to this event, and it's one of my favorite weekends of the year, just to get away, play new things, play stuff that's not even out yet, test some stuff out. And of course, playing more Star Trek Captain's Chair, which is just amazing. But yeah, I just absolutely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of that experience. And thank you to the content creators that basically I gamed with, because you all just made it so welcoming, and I love it so much. And I'm definitely looking forward to returning in the future years for sure. So yeah. So basically, we travelled home. Travelling home was a lot easier than travelling there. I say a lot quicker, a bit quicker. Antwerp was slightly kinder. The tunnel experience was great. It was the quickest I think I've ever got through the tunnel at Calais to Folkestone. And we drove home, and other than my foot cramping up from the amount of driving, being locked in this position, I think, got back, and we had pretty much the hottest day in the UK as I was travelling back, which is fine in aircon when you sat in a car. But when you're when you got out of the car and you're unloading, you think, wow, it's 35 degrees in the UK. We're obviously not built for it, but you know what? I don't care. We had a great weekend. The weather was exceptional. I didn't see much of it because we sat most of it in a house, but I wouldn't change it for the world. And yeah, it was great. So there we go. That's pretty much the end. I just wanted to kind of cover that as a bit of a special Just Play With Others episode, and give you a little insight into that weekend I've just had. And yeah, if you like and enjoy this show, then please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, so you can see this visually if you're listening on the podcast platforms. But you can find us and engage with us through all of our social media. channels, which is Facebook and Instagram and whatnot. And if you want to support the show, we do have a coffee subscription, and every penny helps. As you see, I'm trying to be more visual with the podcast. I'd love to upgrade my visual equipment and get better cameras and different things like that. And every penny towards the show helps, just like it did with the Whose Turn Is It Anyway podcast. And I really appreciate those who have already done that and that continue to support the show. So thank you guys. You are amazing. But so all that's left to say is you only grow old when you stop playing. Take care.